Whyte G-160S is the cheapest of a 3-bike range, all designed here in the UK. Now, Whyte are known for their radical geometry, and the G160 is no different. In fact, the medium bike we tested had a reach number of 479mm. Now, to put that in perspective, that's longer than most Enduro bikes XL sizing, so it's pretty big. While the reach is obviously pretty long then, the head angle isn't actually that radical. At 65.5, as we measured, it's not one of the slackest, but it's not obviously one of the steepest here. But obviously, paired with that reach, it puts you in a great position on the bike and means when it does get steep, you can still ride flat out fast. Right, onto the spec. Now, Whyte sell through bike shops, so they're not quite as competitively priced as the direct brands of the likes of Canyon and YT, for example. But what that means is you're going to get good backup and you can just wander in, see the bikes for yourself and sit on it, get a feel for it, and make sure you're happy with it, which is great. You've got the RockShox Yari RC, which is a great fork with a motion control damper. You've got the WTB I29 rims, so really wide, and they've paired those with WTB tyres. Up front, you've got a huge 2.5 WTB Convict. Now, thankfully, because of that broad rim, even though it's a lighter carcass, it's actually really well supported. Where we've had on other bikes previously a more pinched, tighter rim, and the bigger tyres have tended to roll a little bit on there. On this, we didn't have any of those issues, which was great. The transmission is taken care of by SRAM, so we've got 1x11 GX gearing, so plenty of range there. And the brakes are also SRAM, and it's the Guide R's. Finishing kit includes Whyte's own bar and stem, so the bar's 780mm wide, which is perfect for most riders, and you can always chop it down a little bit. And it's a 40mm stem, both of which use the 35mm bar clamp diameter. It does mean it's very stiff and accurate. Not everyone loves 35mm. But we had no issues with this at all. And to top things off, we've got the RockShox Reverb seat post, which is stealth routed, so through the frame. Again, simple, easy to use, so everything on the bar is nice and tidy. It's actually the shape of the Whyte that really stands out when you do hit the trail. The long reach, long effective top tube, and relatively steep seat angle at 74.5 means that it's actually pretty efficient on the climbs, even though it's actually just over 32 pounds or 14.56 kilos. So getting to the top isn't as bad as you might think. Plus the tyres actually roll pretty quickly too. When it comes to descending, that's where it really gets interesting. Again, it's down to the shape. And I mean, that position on the bike, the length, everything you got there just makes you want to ride it as fast as you can. The front tyre uses the high grip compound, so it's actually pretty tacky. And when it comes to wet rocks and roots and stuff like that, there's enough purchase there, plus the fact that it's that 2.5 makes it feel really confident. Similarly, the back, it's a really short back end. It's only 425mm on the chainstay, which won't always suit everyone, but if you like quite a lively ride and being able to loft the front up over obstacles, it's really, really fun to ride. Okay, there are some downsides in that we had to pack the rear shock full of bands just to try and reduce the air volume and make it a bit more progressive. That was really the biggest downside of the bike. It didn't have quite as much support as we would have liked, which meant that where you would normally plough through or pile drive into a section, you felt that, not that you had to ease off, but it just didn't feel quite as capable as some of the other bikes that are similarly priced and similarly spec'd. And again as well, the motion control damper in the Yari just isn't quite as refined as the Lyric, for example. So you don't always get the same amount of support through the mid-stroke especially, so you do need to compensate with a bit more air to keep the front end propped up. That then does mean that you're getting a little bit more feedback through the hands and the bars, which is particularly noticeable on really chattery trails. But thanks to speccing that big 2.5 tyre, that does take a lot of that buzz off the top there, so it doesn't feel as, not bad, but not quite as bad as it could be, I guess. One thing you might pick up on as you sling the bike from turn to turn is just how low that bottom bracket is, which makes it feel really confident and stable. The only issue you've got there is some riders did find that they would occasionally have the odd crank strike here and there, but once you get used to timing your pedalling through particularly rough and rocky sections, we generally didn't have a problem and actually really appreciated the fact that it was that slammed. If you're worried about how it's going to handle in the tighter situations, we had absolutely no issues slinging it through tight switchbacks out in Italy, and everything we've ridden from the Forest of Dean to Bike Park Wales, it's absolutely cruise through, to be honest. Overall then, while we could pick some holes in the rear suspension of the G160, it was still a really, really good ride, and I think for most of us it was the shape and geometry that made it as good as it was, plus that really, really well considered, thought through components package. So ultimately it's definitely one that we would consider buying for sure. And if it helps, they're now available in America as well.